Earlier in his career, Eric Leven developed and ran the first electronic system for keeping score on the popular PBS game show, The Pennsylvania Game. Boy, has he come a distance from then. Today, he's a visual effects supervisor in Hollywood. His film credits include Armageddon, My Favorite Martian, and Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. We talked with Eric about the role of visual effects in film today. I understand that you were discovered at a film festival and that your first employer actually sought you out rather than the other way around. Tell us a little bit about how you became an animator in the film business.
Well, I started screwing around with computers at school, and I was a film student here at Penn State, and I realized that I could use computers to make my own sets and characters and actors and do it for free, whereas normally making film projects cost a lot of money. You don't have to pay for film stock or anything if you do it on the computer. So I started making short films in the computer as well as my live action films. And when you make a film, you get into a festival, and yeah, somebody saw it at a film festival and called me up the day after spring break my senior year. And I couldn't believe it. I mean, they were offering me a job. I hadn't even graduated. I was convinced I was never going to be employable as a film student.
Because you were having too much fun.
Right, and that's not the kind of thing that you normally get paid for. So.
And in fact, you later went on and still do work with Phil Tippett, who of course is known for his special effects. In fact, he won Academy Awards for Jurassic Park and The Empire Strikes Back. What was it like working for someone who you had previously been in awe of?
It was amazing. I mean, when you first meet the guy, you're really literally in awe, and you don't want to, oh, my name's Eric, and yeah, hey, I'm Phil. Oh, I know. And then you find out he's just a regular guy, and he's, gruff and doesn't always shave, and, he bosses you around, and he's great. And he and I see film and special effects in the same sort of way, I think, and that special effects are just a tool to help the story, and they're not sort of the end-all, be-all science projects that a lot of people have made them out to be. So, we sort of use them to kind of, advance the story and show some neat stuff, but not necessarily, focus on the special effects and really study the special effects. We both say if something doesn't look right, throw some dust in front of it to help it along or something like that. You don't have to worry about the whatever radiosity of the, who knows what, fancy terms.
So you might agree with someone like the critic for the Chicago Tribune who said that special effects can suck life from a movie.
Yeah, I think that these days, because more and more stuff is possible, you end up not coming up with ways to make it interesting. If you look at the films that were made before digital technology, they were constantly battling, how can we make this work? What kind of cheats can we do to make this stuff work? And they come up with interesting solutions because they're limited. Phil has a saying, for some of the lower budget movies that he's worked on, the bad news is we've got no money, but the good news is we've got no money. And you end up coming up with some really creative solutions and coming up with some interesting special effects. Jaws is the best example where, Jaws was this big shark movie, and they realized, oh geez, the shark doesn't work. So what are we going to do? Well, let's not show the shark until we absolutely have to. And of course, that made the movie so much more scary. So that's the kind of stuff we like to do.
Is it accurate to say that almost anything that can be imagined today can be put on the screen?
If you want to pay for it, yeah. And that's really where it comes down to. I mean, if you can get the movie studios to shell out the money, then there really are no limits. But the stuff is expensive, and it does take time, and I think that's what a lot of people don't understand. They figure, well, with computers we can do anything, so why don't you guys just do it? Well, you still need artists and craftsmen to make this stuff happen. So,
Sky Captain and The World of Tomorrow was filmed completely without a set. It was the actors were standing in front of a blue screen. Where will computer-generated imagery take us in the future? I mean, will there someday be digital actors and actresses?
The digital actor thing is something that a lot of people talk about and a lot of people are really interested in, but it feels like they're interested in it as a science project, and they want to do it just to see if they can do it. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a good thing to do. I think if you look at a lot of the digital set movies, like the new Star Wars movies and Sky Captain, they really have an interesting look, but they will often be sort of bland and dry because the actors are reacting to nothing all the time, which is hard to do for an actor, If Gwyneth Paltrow is being told, there's a giant monster right there, you have to look scared, there's only so much she can do, take after take after take in a situation like that.
Now, Starship Troopers, the action thriller, was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Effects, something that you worked on. Can you kind of in simple terms explain to us how, for instance, that bug creature comes to life on the screen?
Sure. Well, it's done basically through, it's kind of like stop motion, where in the old days you used to have an actual puppet that was about 2 or 3 feet high, and you'd move it a little bit at a time, and then, a little bit at a time per frame, just like King Kong. And then when you played it back, it would, appear to move. So these days we do the same thing, but with computers. So you have a digital model that's, three-dimensional inside the computer. An animator will move it a little bit at a time. The computer will sort of fill in the in-between frames, and then it's composited into the live action. We sort of place it right on top and make it look like it's in the same world.
And in fact, we have a clip of you creating or turning a green ball of goo into one such bug creature.
Yeah, the green ball is used for reference. So the cameraman, that's a tail of the bug, of the spy bug, and that the green ball part is the head. And now you can see here that the animator has started to rough in, the digital version of that. Now some technical directors have started to digitally light it so that it looks a little more realistic. And then here the process is refined. We add digital goo. Until here, this is the final shot. It goes through many, many iterations. A shot like this, which is, 3 seconds long, will probably take 3 to 6 weeks to complete. There are probably a crew of 6 people working on that one shot, and they'll go through literally dozens of iterations until it looks right.
Of all of the work that you've done to date, can you tell us which you're most proud of and which you'd kind of like to backspace and delete?
Well, backspace and delete. I mean, in my job, I'm part of a crew and often a very large crew. So working for a company like Tippett Studio, I don't necessarily get to decide what movies I work on. So every movie has its own set of challenges. We don't have a lot of input in terms of what the final product is going to be. So, for example, a movie like Hollow Man, which was a lot of work and a lot of Saturdays and a lot of late nights, and then you see the ultimate product, fantastic special effects, but the film,
not the greatest movie.
Geez, kind of a bummer to see that. And then my favorite film was the one I just finished, which was Starship Troopers 2, which was great because it was a low-budget film, and it was a small crew, and everyone enjoyed working with each other. So we really got a lot of input with the filmmakers, and we felt like we were making a film. It wasn't just like a bunch of craftsmen working on a crew of 800 people. It was a really collaborative effort.
Speaking of Starship Troopers 2, there is a mini documentary at the end of that DVD. And so audiences get to see what it's like behind the scenes, how you create these special effects. I'm wondering knowing how it's done, whether it's spoiled going to the movies for you.
Well, I had always tried to figure out how the special effects were done, and my feeling is if the movie's a good movie, you don't even think about it. You're watching this stuff, and all of a sudden a giant monster comes and attacks somebody or whatever. It's amazing. You don't even think about it. If the movie is crummy, that's when you start to, geez, I wonder how they did that, and that's when your mind starts to wander. So ideally, the movie's good. You don't have to worry about it.
With just a couple of seconds remaining, how does your work for the Pennsylvania game rank among your achievements?
I was really excited about the Pennsylvania game, and I'm proud to be a part of that. It was some of the first computer stuff we had ever done, so it was very exciting.
All right, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Leven says that Tippett Studio doesn't worry about the latest high-tech trends when it comes to animation. In fact, they often choose good old duct tape and bubblegum over a lot of high-tech solutions. Eric's newest film, Mask 2, will be out in February.
A copy of the program you've just seen can be purchased through Penn State Media Sales at mediasales.psu.edu or by calling 800-770-2111.